So what's it like for women to date?
It's
right?
hard.
Tell me about it.
It's really hard and it sucks. But I really just felt like after a certain point in my life, I wasn't going to be married with kids by 30 something with, a house and a dog and this, that, and the other. And for me, I had to accept it that I was like, you know what? I'm not playing by the rules. I'm just going to do for me.
As I've seen some podcasts on dating, there's that concept of like hypergamy for women, which is basically like women date across and above. So you're not going to be attracted instinctually to someone working at 7-Eleven.
I'm sorry, no.
All right, Erica, welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to talk to Erica, who's an author among other things, but this is about dating and like your dating life as a woman.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So before we go into that, just tell me a little bit about yourself, like what you do, things like that.
Jack of all trades. 43, single, childless, no significant other at the time, or at this time, I should say. Teacher by day.
And what do you teach?
Special ed.
Okay.
In middle school. And I've been doing it for 21 years. Writer by night, entrepreneur on the side. I love doing anything that's creative.
Do you feel like you have ADD?
I feel like I have all of a sudden. I'm like, can you develop that as an adult? Because I totally feel like I have.
Yeah, I think with social media, of course.
Yeah.
But if you can harness like the power of ADD, like it's really good for entrepreneurs because like you're all over the place, but you can keep it together.
And my creative outlet is this time. Like this time of night, I'm a night owl. This is when my juices like flow and I could be up till midnight doing.
This is why I decided to do the podcast right now.
Yeah.
So tell me about the book. So we talked briefly about it. So what inspired you to write a book? Because like many people will be like, hey, I want to write a book. And they never do.
Yeah. I've always said I wanted. I've always been a writer. Like I was the girl, even being young at Scholastic Book Fair, buying, like a journal and always documenting my life of some form. And as I got older, I was always documenting, writing, just in a journal generally. But as things started to happen in my life and I was documenting it, and I would always joke as I would go out, I'd be like, you can't even make this up. I'm like, I really should just write a book about my life. And I kept hanging on to that. And I, believe it or not, went to a deep meditation session. And as weird as it sounds, I went down into, going into the meditative state, and Mother Earth screamed at me, write the book. And I woke up and was like, that's it. I'm writing this book. And I had to do it. I just put, pen to paper, and it was a long process, but I did it.
Well, how long did it take you to write it?
So a lot of it I had, again, like from journals. I used to blog. So a lot of it was on my blog called Just a Little Thought. Like it was a tab. So I would pull from there. But then
was this blog public?
Yeah.
All right. Back in the blogging days.
Yeah. I started back in like the 2010, like when it first started. But there was like little pieces and things themes I kept seeing. So once I outlined it, and then COVID hit, and I just full force went for it.
And so what was the process you used to create the book, right? So obviously I've written books and I have my own way I do it, but like how did you do it?
Yeah, so I didn't use actual pen and paper. I thought I was going to at first, but I just found myself not wanting to pick up. So I did it Carrie Bradshaw style, like Sex and the City, just was like typing away and
like your coffee.
Yeah, literally coffee. I had Taylor Swift playing all the time. Like I had a soundtrack. I literally had one album that just played, and I just wrote like whatever came to mind. But I did it by chapters.
Okay.
So I don't know how you do it. So like I started chronologically from my life. Chapter 1, listen to your mother. And it was all about my parents getting divorced. And I did it all in that. And then I couldn't move on. And I don't know if this is my Virgo-ness or type A, firstborn, all of that. I couldn't move on to the next chapter until the first chapter was done.
Okay.
Like edited. I did different colors. Like I was a little neurotic about it.
Well, it's your story.
Yeah. Like I wanted to keep seeing my story grow in each chapter. So like my first draft was all in black. Then I would go back and reread it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to add that in. It would be like in purple. And then I would like look at it again maybe a day or two later, and I'm like, I'm going to add that or change that. It'd be a different color.
So you published this book a couple years ago?
This year.
Oh, this year. Okay.
Yeah, February of 2022. February 22nd.
So this is
2/2/22.
your life up to you were 42?
Literally up until last December.
Okay,
like
so
almost a year.
So we can expect another volume later on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So then, what is the main theme of the book?
So the main theme is basically, and I always tell people this, it's a personal growth book. It's, my story of personal growth, but there's different chapters in there where somebody could look at it and read it and go, I've been in that situation, and to make you feel like you're not alone and that you are going to be okay.
The title of the book is?
And the title of the book is, and in the end, you're going to be okay.
Right.
Because you think in that very moment, you're not going to be. Like, you think your world's crashing, your boyfriend of 3 years broke up with you, or, your parents are getting divorced. Like, you think your world is ending at that time. But when you look back, or when you try to look ahead, you're like, no, I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm going to get through this. And, as you read my book, or as anybody else reads it, like, you realize, like, nope, universe threw her another curveball. She was fine, and you come out better and stronger after each time.
Do you feel like that's kind of like your motto, that like understanding, even at that moment, that eventually this will pass as well?
Yeah.
Or did you have to like learn that?
I learned it because there were pivotal moments in there where I reread it and I'm going, my God, I was getting smothered with like red flags and I wasn't learning my lesson.
And this is red flags about men?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly. And there was one time, I clearly still remember this, and I wrote about it, how I was like, in my bathroom floor, crying, hyperventilating, having panic attacks, and I just sat up and was like, it was almost like somebody from above just picked me up, and I was like, I got to stop this. Like, I'm going to be fine. And that was it. It was like a switch. Like, I just, knew I had to be fine.
I just heard a quote, and it was, victimhood looks good on nobody. And it's really true. Mm-hmm. Like, whatever you're going through, like, if you're playing the victim,
yes,
stuff happens to people.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, regardless, if you have an option, right, to either play the victim,
right,
or be like, this stinks, let me at least take steps to make it better.
Right.
Right? And the locus of control is what changes your life.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
Right?
It was literally a pivotal moment for me at 20. It was 27. At 27, granted, I went through, a lot of frogs. I write about them. But, like, my outlook, I couldn't play the girl victim of, my dad left me. Like, my parents divorced when I was 11. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. Like, even though, I've had therapists say that, well, your parents divorced when you were young. I'm like, yeah, all right, maybe I'm trying to fill that void. Like, I wasn't smart enough yet, like, or wise enough, I should say, to realize, no, you already had the answers. Like, you knew that's not the card you were supposed to be playing, in a sense.
Yeah, so there's a couple things with that. So we'll get into that. But, like, children who have parents who are divorced, it can go one of two ways.
Oh, yeah.
In some instances, it actually, or even in the case where they lose a parent. Yeah. Right? That contrast spurts out, like, they take the bounce and they become something greater, right? Then they wouldn't have gone on that path.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes, I mean, we can get pretty spiritual there. It could have been an agreement before you came into your physical body.
100%, I agree.
Knowing that, okay, this person's going to be this way.
Yep.
And you have an agreement that that's how you're going to learn to change.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But I've also seen personally the opposite. I did not know, because my parents are still together, I did not know there was a huge difference in dating with a partner who is from divorced parents and a partner who is with parents who are together. Yeah. I didn't know there was a difference until pretty recently. Yeah. What was your experience, right? So parents get divorced. Yep. Now we're trying to date. Yeah. How did that affect you, let's say, negatively when you first started dating? Right?
I think that I was always searching for the what's the word? Like, acceptance, like I was going to be good enough, that he wasn't going to leave me.
The guy you're dating?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that I wanted to make sure no matter what I did was going to be, like, perfect. And that's not even how or why my dad left. Like, it had nothing to do with me. But as a kid, I saw that, like, I couldn't be the daughter that, my dad wanted me to be, and that's why he left. It's like, well, that's not really why he left. It was beyond my parents. Like, but when I was dating, especially in college, And then after my college boyfriend, you know, I was young, 18 to 21. He was the love of my life. Like, I wrote about it, how he was probably the one that got away, but at 21, I was a baby.
Right.
You know, and he was older than me, so I wasn't ready to settle down. But in hindsight, I'm like, God, that was a real relationship, you know, but I wanted to still fly. And like, I was like, no, I'm turning 21. I want to go out with my friends. I want to do things. Like, you're older. You've done it. You know, I was like, no, I'm good. But that next relationship is where I was like, but I did this for you and I did this for you. And it was just like never enough. Like, I kept trying to keep somebody. And I kept, you know, wanting to be that perfect girlfriend and trying to get that love and acceptance that I wasn't getting or I didn't get from my dad, which really wasn't me. That's not who I was. Or maybe I was at the time, you know, and to realize you didn't have to be that way. You could have just been yourself.
Yeah. And so even like from, you know, so for me, you know, you, from what you see parents wise, like you emulate.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I know, you know, my situation.
Yeah.
So like my dad was the protector, takes care of my mother. Right. So pretty much every girl I've dated long term, I protected them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Until I got to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this.
Right.
Right. Like that's the path he chose, but that's what I saw.
Yep.
So like in your case, like, yeah, you're always trying to seek the approval of a male because you didn't have when you were younger.
Right.
But in instances that puts you at a position where you might not be empowered.
Right.
Right. Or you're trying to do too much. And you might be smothering the guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But I didn't think I was.
Exactly.
But now that I look back, I go, God, I would have ran too. But like,
yeah, right.
You know, I mean, I totally understand why it ended the way it did because my mom wasn't like that ever. My mom is very independent. And she even was when my parents were married. Like, she had her friends. She went and my dad was like, yeah, go do whatever you want to do. He had his friends. So to me, that was normal. But I don't know. Oh, I do know what happened. Like when my parents divorced, I lost that male piece.
Sure.
But then my mom, you know, I dedicated the book to her because she is my role model. Like she emulates what a strong, independent, don't lean on somebody just because, like, be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Because I see a lot of women now, my age, who can't, who don't know how to pay bills, who don't know how to live on their own, who don't, you know, who maybe married into a household where everything is controlled for them. And I'm like, I could never have that. Or don't want that.
You have a younger sister.
Yeah.
Did it affect her the same way it affected you?
No.
Did you think because you're the oldest, like you're the one who was like responsible in your head?
And it's funny because when she read it, she goes, I didn't remember that happening that way. And I was like, yeah, but it did. But because we're 2.5 years apart and she was 9 and I was 11, it was completely different.
And she's probably looking up to you anyway.
Right.
Right.
But I felt like I had to protect her, pave the way to make sure everything was going right, you know, in that sense.
So
I took the brunt of everything.
Yeah, you took the burden.
Yep.
So what is it like, so in our 40s now, or even when you were younger, let's even go younger. So what's it like for women to date, right? I really want to talk about like right now. Like,
yeah, it's hard.
Tell me about it.
It's really hard and it sucks. I don't know why. And, you know, and I mean, you've known me. So it's like people are like, you're such a great catch. I'm like, yeah, I know I am. Like, I have a great job. I own my home. You know, like, I can do this. But I don't know if that still scares men. Like, and it shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to rely on somebody. It would be nice to have that companion, to have somebody be like, hey, let me do that for you. And it's like, oh, great, thank you. But I don't want to like rely on somebody, if that, you know, makes sense.
Yeah.
Nowadays, men should want that. But I feel like it still scares them or they're just not interested. Like any guy that I come across, I hate dating apps. Like it's just not organic for me. I'm the type I'm like, I want to meet them in a bookstore or maybe like if I'm
You think a lot of guys are hanging out at the bookstore?
No, I know. But like, do you know what I mean? I want to be able to go. I feed off of vibes.
Right.
For me, that's just who I am. Like my intuition is literally so strong that that's what I have to trust. So for me to swipe, it becomes a chore, and I don't enjoy it.
Guys on dating apps, though, it's basically the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're creepy.
Yes.
I've heard some stories from women.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've had some horror stories, and I'm just kind of like, no, like I don't want to go through that again. who lies, who puts up a good front, and then, everybody's like, expand your horizon, like go out of Rhode Island, go out of Cranston. And I do it. I check that box, and then it's
Where you going?
It backfires. I went into Massachusetts, and I was like, all right, I can do this. Attleboro, I can drive, 40 minutes.
From a dating app?
Yeah, met him. This was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he ended up having a whole other life.
I've heard that.
Yes.
And when you say whole other life,
like a girlfriend
kids,
live-in that he
family.
called, and he had 2 kids, but he was like, I'm divorced. I'm like, all right, divorced dad, 2 kids, I can do this. I'm not, not against that, like, because at my age, I could be divorced with 2 kids,
Sure.
But to then be like, oh, hey, my roommate, and I'm like, all right, he's got a roommate, I get it, like, I'm trying to be open. No, the roommate was his girlfriend, like.
And how many times have you come across a similar situation? Because I hear it's pretty frequent.
Yes, more than I care to,
Okay.
have to come across it, which turns me off from meeting somebody that way, because how do you trust? I already have trust issues as it is.
So, where does somebody who's 43-year-old, besides the bookstore and online,
I know.
where are you going? Stop and Shop?
Market Basket's where it's at.
Yeah, pick the nice one. Yes, I agree.
I mean, pre-COVID, I was going out, as much as I could. Like, if somebody invites me out, I'm going to go. And then COVID hit, and I was like, great, this sucks. So I got a dog. I would go to the dog park. I was like, maybe I'll, I'm like,
okay.
The universe is sending me things. Maybe I'll meet somebody at the dog park. No, it hasn't happened. It's been 3 summers. But now I find if the universe is throwing me something and I don't feel like going, but I'm like, oh, could be it though. Like, you just don't know. I force myself to go. And then if I don't meet somebody, I don't meet them. But I'm like, all right, well, I had a fun night. I've learned to say no to things.
Such as?
Like, if I don't want to go, I used to be a people pleaser and just go because I felt like I had to. But
do you think most women are like that?
I think we're afraid to say no to things because we're afraid of, like, oh, you're going to be mad if I cancel, or,
To women friends and men.
And men, yeah. I think to both. Like, if I didn't want to go out with a guy, I think before me would be like, okay, fine, I'll go. Where now I'm like, no, you know what? Not tonight.
So have you had the experience where you said, like, no to a guy, or maybe you want to date and they're like, I'm just not feeling it, and then they yell at you, they get mad, angry?
In text, yeah. And then I'm like,
right? They go off.
Okay, well, I'm not going to answer you because silence is the answer.
So tell me some of the because safety is a huge concern for women in dating, right? So, like, if I go on a date, I'm not worried about the woman, like, beating me up,
right?
Like, taking me somewhere I don't want to go. Like, I'm pretty safe.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't mean I need to be stupid about it. But,
no,
like,
right? But you are, yeah.
Stupid?
No,
I'm
safe.
just kidding. Yeah. So, like, you're pretty safe. Like, I don't have that. That's not.
I have a fear all the time.
Well, women probably should be on high alert.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, what are the when we talk about, like, meeting someone for the first time, like, what are the things that goes through a woman's head as far as, like, you gotta be safe, right? Like, you're not going to that house for the first date.
Yeah, no.
So, like, how big is that concern for women?
Oh, I let certain people know. I let them follow me on my phone. God forbid something happens. Like, few friends have it, and then my sister has it, and my mom, but my mom's hardly ever on her phone. But anyway, I always, especially that night, if like it's a coffee date or day drinks, like a happy hour or whatever, I always make sure people know this is where I'm going, this is what his name is. Like, we deep dive like FBI because I'm afraid. Like, I make sure they know his name. This is kind of what he looks like, and here's my tracking.
Yeah, because my guys will see, like, a picture, I'd be like, we're going out. Yeah. And, like, they don't know where I'm at. They don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But we might check in.
It's like I almost watch too many Law and Order SVUs, but I always want to be aware of my surroundings in general. But when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, and I don't know you from a hole in a wall, like, I'm extra high alert,
And so, what would be, before we get into the stories of the book, what would be some of the, like, red flags that now you would see where before you wouldn't?
Oh, yeah. Oh, vibe number 1 for me. Like, I know it's hard to explain because certain people can't get a vibe from somebody.
Well, you get an intuition.
I 100%, right. Yeah. And I think people need to lean into that more, especially going out on dates or blind dates or whatever, because I think somebody's body language and energy, you really can feel it.
So one of the things we teach to all the self-defense seminars we do, and then the clients up there, is, like, the first thing is, like, listening and trusting your intuition.
Yes.
Right? Because humans are the only species that don't listen to their intuition. If you were a gazelle and you saw like a grizzly bear, you wouldn't just like prance by the grizzly bear. Like you would go the other way.
Right. You'd be like, I'm going to go.
But what humans do is they don't want to upset anybody. They want to be polite. Right. So like this person's giving me creepy vibes. Well, I'm still going to walk past them, or maybe I still talk to them because I don't want to be rude.
Right.
And it puts me into danger.
Yeah.
Right. So we talk about listening to your intuition, trusting and acting upon it. Like that's the first thing we teach in a self-defense seminar. Yeah.
And I 100% follow that all the time. Because, like, I'll get, like, a weird feeling in my stomach. I'll start to sweat and I'll get hot and I'll just, like, I start to play with my jewelry. Like, I already know my signs when I'm, like, uncomfortable. And I might, because I don't want to be rude. I don't as much as people are like,
but isn't it better to be rude than dead?
Yeah, right. So I would, in my head, be concocting some way to get out of it. Because I don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, and you know, the purpose of life is to be happy, so you shouldn't be on a date with someone that's not making you happy.
I'd be like, I gotta go, like,
yeah,
you know.
So okay, the vibe.
Yeah.
What are some other red flags that you've seen?
Somebody being just like forceful, like ordering for me, like, and I know something like that could be nice, but if you don't know me, I don't want you to. It's the way, the presentation.
I got you.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
so I had a girl order for me on our first date, and I go, "Did you just order for me? Like, what did you?"
But see, I would probably do that. I'd be like, "Oh, do you want this? Great. Well, we're gonna have this."
Well, we made a joke. I made a joke of it, and it was funny. But I was like, "Do you just order for me?"
But if I don't like you, I'm not gonna like it. Like, because again, I think my intuition immediately tells me if I'm gonna allow somebody to do that.
Yeah. Do you like when a guy takes the lead?
I think so. Yeah, in the beginning. Once I'm comfortable, but I don't like people who are rude in general. Like if you're rude to somebody, even when we're out, that's a red flag for me.
Sure.
Like if you're rude ordering a drink, I'm like, nah, we're good.
So I always watch how they treat maybe the wait staff or whatever.
Yep.
But also how they respond to something not going as planned.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And like how
change. Yeah.
Yeah, like impromptu change. And how they handle it. So one of the things that often gets me, I always forget because like you've known me. So like I'm literally the same whether you meet me in the podcast room,
right?
Out with friends, I might be like Marc 2.0 or like teaching, like I'm literally the same person.
Yeah.
But people put their representative out. And I forget that that's not going to be them sometimes who they truly are.
Right.
Because I'm always the same.
Yeah.
And so like if on the first date you're not handling it well, you're not going to handle it well in 6 months.
Right.
Because everyone's on their best
behavior. Like, if this is you now,
yeah,
what are you like even 6 dates from now?
Right. You're going to be a lot different.
You're going to be a lot different. And, you know, trust me, if you read my book, I give second, third, 100 chances. But I have learned over the decades, you know, in my 20s, 30s, and now my 40s, like, you are who you are. And my Nana, God rest her soul, has always said to me, Erica, a leopard doesn't change its spots. You know, and that stuck with me because really I am who I am. I mean, you've known me. I mean, I'm kind of quiet at first, but once you get to know me, I'm a chatterbox. And I'm like that in school. My students know me as that. The parents know me as that. You could, you know, meet me out anywhere and I'm going to chat your ear off. But like, I'm not going to be rude. Like how I treat people is how I treat people. You know, so if a guy, especially on a first date is going to be rude to wait staff, and I was a waitress at one point, I'm going to be like, well, that's an X for you.
Should the guy pay on the first date?
See, I like to pay half. Like, I'm not... I would think it's very nice. I'd be like, oh, you don't really have to do that. And if he's like, no, I want to, I'd be like, well, thank you. You know, I am appreciative of that.
What if they don't pay on the first date? I would say that's a red flag.
Yes.
No, I'm not saying... If you want to split, that's fine. I'm just saying if they make the woman pay...
No, absolutely not. No.
I think that's a red flag.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you talk about, you know...
Especially if you asked me out. You asked me out. Why aren't you paying?
Yeah, and I've seen that.
Like, do you know what I mean?
But I think nowadays, and we can get into this. I think nowadays, you want equality for all. Like, I get that. Mm-hmm. But there's something to be said about traditional values.
Correct. And I still look for those. And a lot of guys don't have them.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I feel nowadays...
Like chivalry is dead.
Well, so...
Some of it is.
But masculinity is dead.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm not talking masculinity where, you know... You're overly macho, you're compensating. I'm just talking about, like, as you know, there's feminine energy, there's masculine energy.
Yeah.
You can have both.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
But, like, in the dating scene, if it's, you know, a man and woman, like, I think women do like there to be some certain amount of masculinity.
Yeah.
That doesn't really exist now.
No. Like, I want you to open the door for me still. Or like, if we're going into a restaurant, you open the door, your hand goes on my back. Go ahead, hon, go in.
They're
like,
pushing you in.
Yeah, get in. But like, do you know, like it's the little things.
Yeah.
Opening the car door. I know that sounds old, 1920s, but to me, it's still a nice gesture, and it's a simple gesture that men don't do.
So from dating now,
yeah.
What are men like now?
They're funny. It's kind of like I could write a whole book about it. Like, you know, a whole other book of just men's actions on how they've changed. I think, sadly, unfortunately, to social media. I think it's changed a lot of how people are. It's very informal. No, I find a lot of guys don't want to like know the deep stuff. You know, it's like, oh, I saw that on Instagram. It's like, but no, you see the highlights. Like,
okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to know about my life or like what I do or, you know, that type of thing. Where first dates used to feel like an interview, where now they don't. It's kind of weird.
Do you find like the man's talking more about himself?
A lot. The guys I've run into, yeah, which to me is a turnoff. Like, it's conversations too, you know? I want to listen, and if you're passionate about your job, I will listen to you all day long. But ask me about my job.
Right.
And then we can talk back and forth about it. Or, you know, hey, do you have any nieces and nephews? Oh my God, I have 4. Like, that type of thing. It's just.
So tell me about your worst date.
Oh God. My worst date.
I mean, if there's a lot of them,
yeah,
then we could do one or
time?
We could do one or two. And it's like, is this the first date? Is it the second date?
Yeah, I would say.
How old were you?
I would say I was in my 30s when this one happened, and it was nothing what was on his profile, and
It's just online.
Yeah, okay. I had met him online. This one I had met on Match because
not MySpace.
No, I missed MySpace.
Wasn't Tom?
No, ranking my friends. That's how you knew my mood too. The song playing.
I got you. I got you. All right, so we met him online.
I met him online. You know, everybody was like, "Do the online." Match was big then. You know, like early 30s, and so 10 years ago.
By the way, just so you know, I told my friend in like 1996, when I was like 12 or 13, I was like, online dating is the wave of the future. Had I had like invested in that somehow when I was like, this is gonna be back
it's
like
then,
AOL chat rooms,
right. But like 10 years ago, people were like getting married and meeting the love of their life. Yeah. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. I will pay to even get the cream of the crop. So I did. Gotcha. Well, this guy, like all on paper, we match, 98% match, and I'm like, okay, fine. We started chatting back and forth, and we go and meet in East Greenwich. So I'm like, it's my favorite area. I feel safe. I know the surroundings, that type of thing. And I walked in and I was like, huh, okay. And he was like, hi, I'm so-and-so. I was like,
so wait, why did you go, huh?
He didn't look like what and I saw a bunch of pictures. So I don't know how old those pictures were.
30 years.
I'm not saying it was awful, but it just didn't match. Where for me, I looked how I looked. You could pull up my profile and go, oh yeah, that's you. And I get people change, but this was kind of a drastic change.
So if he had those pictures in a milk carton, nobody would find him now?
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
No, they'd be like, have you seen me? Still missing. And he sounded really nice on paper. Like the way he wrote, it was, being a writer, I was like, oh, this is really written well, eloquently. And, I was just kind of like, all right, I want to get to know more. And then when he started talking, I was like, did you write this? It just was just horrible.
It was the exact opposite?
Yeah, he just sounded cocky, like when he talked in person.
Do you think he was trying too hard?
He might have been. But for me, being young, like early 30s, I was like, I don't have time for this. And that was it.
Well, you wouldn't have time for it now either.
Yeah, no, definitely not now, no.
So did you leave early?
No, I sucked it up.
Yeah.
And then when he was like, oh, we should do this again, I was like, yeah, we should. And then that was it. I guess nowadays we call it ghosting. I just never.
Yeah, have you ghosted people?
I don't think I have. No, except for that guy.
Except for
him. That was like a legit ghost. I was like, I'm not going out with him again. I just didn't he sounded really nice on paper. Would sound like a genuine dude, in person. And then when he opened his mouth, I was like, this is not the same, But he could have been trying too hard, which, sorry.
Because I think
I didn't want to try again. I was turned off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, if you're turned off on the first date, you're not all of a sudden going to get turned down on the third. Right?
Because even though he didn't look, because, this is when, even back then, people said, you have high standards. I'm like, listen, it wasn't even just about the looks. Because I get it. I have dated people are like, really? But I'm like, I like their personality. I like the chemistry we have, But so for me, had he opened his mouth and sounded like the guy on his profile, it probably would have gone maybe a little bit different or maybe to a second date. But no.
I mean, so when people say people have high standards, shouldn't you? Because the divorce rate's like 50%.
Yeah.
And that's the person that you are going to potentially be spending the rest of your life with.
Right.
Be like, no, it's cool. Like, they have about 25% of what I want. I'm definitely down. Like, you know what I'm saying?
10. I'll even take 10.
Even 10.
No.
So was there another date where you just left?
No. I've never been able to do that. No. Because I've always been, now if that happened, I probably would get up and leave. But in my 30s, I was a people pleaser. So that's why even with that guy, I sucked it up and was just like, I'm not doing that again.
So how did you change after writing the book then?
I hit 40 and was like, F at 40. Like, everything in my life was just like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I learned through therapy to set boundaries. Like, my number one weakness, one of my weaknesses, I should say, but was boundary setting for men, dating, friends, any form of relationship. So. Did
you get pushback when you tried to change that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I'm not who everybody thinks I am. Like, do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
It's like, but it's for the better for me. Healthy wise, to have boundaries.
And listen, nobody's going to take care of you more than yourself.
Right.
Right. So there's this thing with like entrepreneurs as you grow and you do things. People are like, oh, you're not the same person that you were. Yeah. No shit. Right. Like, I'm not supposed to be.
Right.
Like, if I was the same person I was 10 years ago, I'd be doing the same thing I was doing.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like you should definitely continue to change, continue to evolve. And some things I did in my 20s or 30s. Well, I'm still in my 30s.
Yeah.
But in my 20s, don't work for me now.
Right.
Right? You have to change the way you go.
And even, the guys I date now have changed. But I think also for me, I've set boundaries. I have my standards, like, as I should. So at 43, people are like, you're picky, you're getting older, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but I'm happy. Shouldn't I be happy and find somebody to come along for the ride, to have that partner, to have that companion, rather than be in a relationship and be miserable? Because there are plenty of people out there who are doing that, and life's too short.
I agree.
This
would be an interesting question. So do you think then that you're a successful woman, right? You have this going for you. From a man's perspective, like if they're not as successful as you, that's going to be intimidating.
I know, but why?
Well,
because men want to take care, like.
Yeah, like, so it depends how it is, though, right? Well, I'm going to give you two.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to get your opinion on it.
Yeah.
I feel that, for me, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
The man should have provide for the women certain things.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm not saying the woman can't make her own money, fine. But the man, when it comes down to it, should be able to provide for the woman in the family.
I agree with
that's part of, like, the man's role, in my opinion. And a lot of that comes from, like, I was in the martial arts when I was 8. So I learned what it was to be a man, like, at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing they have to provide is safety, right? So, like, if we're going out, listen to this. So we go out to first date. I don't even know you. I have to protect you.
Right.
So if someone tries to attack us, I can't just leave and be like, Erica,
sorry, gotta go.
Not only because I'm a self-defense instructor.
Yeah.
So literally, when I go out with somebody, like, I literally have to, if you think about this,
be on guard
and put my life on the line to protect somebody. It could be a first date.
Yeah.
Right? You just think about that.
Crazy.
And I can't leave. Like, I literally have to die right there. Because nobody would ever sign up.
This is fun.
Yeah, no one would ever sign up to my school. But I think there's certain things that the men should provide.
Yes, I 100, and I would love that. Like, I don't not want that. You know what I mean?
So now, do you think that makes it harder for you?
Yes, okay. I feel like it does because I don't know why it's not working.
Okay. And then, so if you were to choose somebody who wasn't as successful, right? Do you feel that you would want somebody as successful as you?
I think I would. At this stage in my life, I don't want to be taken care of.
This is what I'm saying.
Do you know, taking care of somebody? I've done all that. I was always like making sure my boyfriends had what they needed, or me, granted we were pay scale around the same, back then, like 20s, early 30s. But then as I was getting older, some of the men were making more and I was just a teacher.
Yep.
And then a flip switched for me. I was like, no, I want to do more. And then I started to evolve and change, and now I'm surpassing them. And it's like, oh, okay. Now the roles are reversed and they are like, nope, you're too much for me.
Correct. Yeah.
Which sucks.
So, as I've seen some podcasts on dating, there's that concept of like hypergamy for women.
Yep.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is basically like women date across and above.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to date below. So, for instance, you're a writer.
Back in the day, you did, though.
When
we did as women. When we were younger. Women, social class-wise, like, oh, her husband's a CEO. Good for Mary. Like, Mary lives in a big house now, and the husband provides, and she's now where she is with all the other women like that.
Yes.
But,
and I'm not saying you personally, but basically, hypergamy is basically like, so you do this, this, and this, right? You have a master's degree? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're not going to be attracted instinctually to someone working at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah, but you know what's sad? Some 7-Eleven people think that I'll go on a date with them.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
And I'm sorry, no.
But that's the concept of like how women date.
Yeah.
So if you make yourself this successful, it limits.
The pool is small.
This is what I'm saying to you.
Very
right?
small.
Now, take the opposite side of this. For men, it's different, right? Men don't care about any of that.
No.
So men actually don't, for the most part. I can't say all men. So
no, but I would even say the men I have come across in the 20 years, since 23 to 43, I would say majority don't really care until it affected me now that I'm up there.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
So for men, I won't even say most men. For some men, okay, you could be working at 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah.
But you could be a Ukrainian model and he's a CEO.
Yeah.
And he's still going to date you.
Right.
So the dating is different. Like it's probably in our genes.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy.
So the more successful, it limits the pool.
Yeah.
Right? And it also limits the pool because guys are going to be intimidated.
Yeah. But then it's like, and I think that's why people will say to me, well, you need to go to Boston where like the suit wearing guys are.
Sure.
But I'm like, no, I want a blue collar guy. Like I love a guy who's like working, because that's just my family. Mm-hmm. Like I was brought up, like my papa was in construction and my uncles are, and my dad, even though he wore a suit and he was regional manager, but like he was a worker. You know what I mean? So I don't want somebody who's just stuffy sitting in an office because sometimes they don't have personalities.
Yeah, and with that too, it's not always like, it's not that you need a degree or you need to be, but you need
to be successful.
And passionate.
Yes.
Right? Because passion go a long way.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So I found that that's interesting, especially for me dating now, like I'm self-sufficient, right? Like I don't need a partner who financially needs to take care of me.
Right.
Like I don't need any of that.
No, right.
I just need a compliment to my life.
Correct.
Right.
So I'm like somebody for the ride. Like meaning like you have been self-sufficient on your own. Obviously we could be like a power couple, like do for each other.
Right.
But I have been managing myself for 20 years.
Yeah. And do you find that it's hard to change when you start dating somebody new?
Oh my God. Do you know, like, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what this is going to be like. I was like, I like my space. I like my alone time. Like, I don't know if I could share this with somebody, that always goes through my head when I'm on a date with somebody, and I'm already like 10 years down the line,
So I think one of the things that I've noticed from dating now is that because my business requires so much attention that I can't give women the level of attention I gave them when I was 25.
Well, right.
Right? And I feel that, women want successful guys, right? I think that would be versus successful versus not successful.
But then some women, but he's not around.
So that's the thing.
So for me, and I don't know when some women will realize like, well, you got to learn the love languages. Like mine is quality time, but I'd rather have 10 minutes with you, you bringing me a coffee, stopping by, saying hi, and then I'd be like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you later, and then we go our separate ways. Where I don't think some women know, like, if that's what your love language is, that is enough for that time being.
For that time being.
Right.
Because, we live in an attention economy.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, right? So
everybody wants everything like this. Yeah.
So I find that women want a man who's successful. Say he's a CEO, but he can't give them the level of attention that they want. right? Because a lot of that attention is split,
right,
kind of thing. Have you noticed that, like with anybody you've dated?
Yeah, I have. Like with guys that I've dated, especially if they own their own business, and you're out in the work field, like guys I've dated are like, hands-on, driving trucks or doing whatever. Me being in school as a teacher has been kind of helpful because I'm like, well, I know they're working and I'm working.
Sure.
So it doesn't make me wonder, what is he doing? Because if I'm sitting at a desk, I'm going to be bored, or I'm going to be like wondering what he's doing. And if he's at his desk, well, why isn't he answering his phone? Whereas for me, if I date a guy who's busy like me, my 6 hours goes by. And if there's that one text throughout the day, I'm like, oh, he thought of me today.
You
or
get
he
that
thought of
dopamine
me.
hit.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
And then after work, it's like, all right, I'll see you for dinner.
Right.
And then I have something to look forward to. But if I've dated guys who aren't like that, who are just in an office, I'm like, well, what the hell are you doing? Like, I know you're near your phone, but then I have to get off that cycle of, if he wants to, he'll text me, that type of thing.
But if they're texting you too much, though, is that possible for a man to
if I like you, it's never going to be too much.
So that's what I'm saying. The caveat,
I could talk to you all day long for 6 hours.
The caveat is if you like them.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the perfect first date for you?
Oh, God. Like, depends on the season at this point in Rhode Island.
We'll go fall.
Fall. I just love being with somebody. Like, I'm pretty easy. Like, I don't need the big hoopla. So I would even, like, go to a winery or just, like, hang out or do something outside. Like, I've learned to really like to be outside.
Okay.
I don't need to be hiking, though. There's none of that. Because, people are like, oh, let's go for a hike. I'm like, no, I'm good. Just literally, like, dinner, having good conversation.
Do you think that's missing with men today?
Yeah. Some of the men I've come across, they don't know how to have good, deep conversation. And it's hard when you've dated somebody who you've had that with, because then you hold it up to everybody else.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Like it's missing because you know what a good, deep conversation is with someone.
So is there somebody that you dated that you felt like was the one that got away?
Yeah. And I think it was also timing for that one. Like the one that like ends the book.
And is that the man that you put everyone up against?
Always.
Okay. Because I was teaching a class the other day, and one of the kickboxers, she was doing it, and she was like back fist in the bag, and then she's like, I don't know what she said. She's like, this always reminds me of my ex-boyfriend, and I go, don't you have a boyfriend? And she's like, yeah. She's like, but my ex-boyfriend. I go, oh. And so then there was all the women in class. I was like, do you all have an ex-boyfriend that you want to hit?
Right,
They're like, yes. But I feel like for anybody, but for women, like there's
there's one. Like,
there's one either that you always can't stand, or the one that you're always putting everyone up against.
I have one of each.
That's what I'm saying.
I have one of each.
Do you think most women do?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, especially one that like holds that title. Like, do you know what I mean?
What would that title be?
Well, just like the one like.
The bad one?
The bad one.
Okay.
Like, there is that one, I think, that changes a woman.
Okay. And
for
bad or good? Like,
I think it's a bad at first, and then for me, it's like you change for the better.
When you're talking about the next that
like
falls apart.
Yeah, like when your life falls apart at that moment, that's when you think you're at your worst, because it's the bad relationship, that bad guy, that bad, bad situation. But then when you come out of it, you're like, I still hate him, but it changed you. You're now awesome. You're now like, I'm going to do for me. I'm going to find better. I deserve better. And then you might find that guy who you think is going to be the one, and you're like, it didn't work. And you hold everybody to that person.
So talk to me more about that then. So like there's this one guy, not in girls' lives, let's just say, in general, that you're holding every other guy up to.
Yeah.
What if no one can get there?
I know. I think that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Because you can't hate that one person. Because I talk to a lot of girls just in general. Like if I go out or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, so and so I dated. They're like, oh, my husband doesn't even have what he had. Like,
oh, they say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just certain qualities, certain connections. So I think for some of the women that I've come across that are married, they're just like, well, my husband had all these other things, and I have him, and I love him, and I have fun with him, but sometimes you miss that spiritual or emotional connection that might be deeper than what you currently have. You know, so you almost, I don't want to say settle, because these people are happy that I have talked to about it. Because I always ask them, I'm like, well, what made you choose your husband? You know, and they tell me, they're like, well, it was this, it was this, it was this, you know, and I'm like, okay, you know, it can happen, but it sucks when you're searching for it.
And you found it before, but you can't find it again.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what would be some green flags that you would look for in men?
Oh, green flags.
I ask very good questions. Just so you know.
I think like paying attention, like to little things, just wanting to make me happy in like the smallest way, you know, just like tuning in, listening. I think somebody who's a listener and a good communicator is, for me, important, because
I mean, I don't think many guys communicate that well, do you?
no, but I've met them.
Okay,
so they exist.
Okay,
that's why I know. I'm like, if you're a communicator, I'm keeping you.
Okay,
you know, and if you're funny at the same time, it's definitely like, you know, there are certain things where I'm like, I know this exists in a human. Where are you? So like, if you have little snippets of it, it's like, all right, you know, I want to know more, type of thing. But I think if guys just learn to listen and pay attention, that they don't always have to fix everything.
That's a good one.
Sometimes we just want you to listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fixer.
Yeah, I think most guys are. They always want to be able to like, well, what can I do? It's like, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to just listen to me. I had a bad day.
So, and I think that brings up a good point, though, because usually when men argue, they argue with logic, and women argue with emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And like I know for person, but like I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying to me right now. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now I understand, because like, you know, feelings are powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember thinking to myself, you're not making any sense right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, logically, like, this is the answer.
Yeah.
But men and women, like, we perceive things differently. We argue differently.
Yep.
And I think that goes back to like, yeah, for me, like, I just want to fix it. Yeah. But sometimes women doesn't want you to fix it. They do.
No, you just.
But we don't know when that is, though.
I know.
Like, could you tell us?
Like, right.
Could you just tell us? Right.
Like, I feel like if we say to them, I need you to help me with this, then it's like that's the go to help me fix something. Or if I'm just like complaining and venting about the day, I don't care if you really just tune me out. Just let me get it out. Like, I don't need you to try to fix something. And I think that just comes with time, being in a relationship. But there have been times where, you know, I was dating somebody, you know, with months or whatever, and I'm like, I don't need you to do anything. Like, I just need you to listen. You know, and some people can't. They just can't listen.
So for your next relationship, how do you think you're going to be different now at 43? You wrote a book. You reflect on these life lessons. How are you going to think you're going to be like a different girlfriend, wife than you were? Not that you were wife before. No. At least I don't know about it. You know. Like then when you dated like in your 30s. Like, how do you think you're going to be different?
I think I approach situations a lot differently. Like whether it's a dilemma or a confrontation, I'm not quick to like go at somebody, which I was always on the defense. Where now I kind of... Do
you think that's from being from divorced parents?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things I noticed is that a woman from divorced parents, you live in survival mode.
Always. Yep.
And I didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. It is
always
different.
On eggshells.
Yep.
Always on eggshells.
Yep. And honestly, I found that from my experience, it was like, in your case, whatever, you'd make up stuff or you think stuff was going to go wrong when nothing was wrong.
Oh, I would make up scenarios all the time in my head. And then it would manifest into that because 100%. I created that.
Correct.
And then I would get mad at myself and I'm like, see, I knew. And it's like, no, you just created it.
Right.
You created it to happen because you already thought it was happening.
Yeah.
Like, and I sometimes want to just punch myself because it's like certain situations in my past I created. Right. I threw it out there and the universe was like, all right, fine, let it happen.
And I think that goes back to, you know, divorced parents, like especially when you're younger, because you don't understand the locus of control.
Correct.
Right. So it makes sense that you would act that way. But then when you can have insight, when you're an adult, you're like, oh, I don't have to act that way.
Correct.
I can make changes.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't fault anybody for, listen, when you're a kid, you just go by what you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And we have those knee-jerk reactions, but like it's definitely that.
But in my 20s and 30s and a lot of those relationships, that's what it was. It was a knee-jerk reaction. I was always like I was waiting for the other shoe to always drop.
And that, as a man.
When it maybe never was.
Right? And as a man, that gets stressful.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've noticed about myself now is like I only choose to be around people, men or women, whatever, friends, dating, whatever, that like I'm happy around.
Yeah.
Right? And it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not easy, like I bounce.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure you've seen my dating history.
Yeah.
So
like I'm out.
Yeah, like I don't. I tried to work on that, but I think that worked really well for me. Anyway, but okay, so you're going to be different now. You won't be as
like
reactive.
I found an old journal, believe it or not, and I was cringing reading it. And I was 26 years old when I was writing furiously. Like I watched my handwriting change throughout as I was writing in the pages. And I was like, what? Like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Oh my God, why did I say that? But looking back, that's all I knew. That was the only way I knew how to respond to something when he wasn't answering me. He wasn't answering my phone calls. He was lying about this. And then, the proof was right there and I was flipping out and, I was in my head. Whereas I feel like now, I mean, in hindsight, I'm like, she was a little nuts. I know I was nuts.
I would have left myself too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm like, I would have left. I would have left. But I feel like I didn't know any different. I hadn't worked on myself.
Do you think that's the process of growth?
Definitely. And I just don't think some people do it. And it's okay. Like nobody wants to always go down memory lane, but it's like if you don't get to the root of maybe why you act the way you act or respond to certain situations, you're never going to change. Yeah. And you're going to change for the better in the outcome, but a lot of people just like tuck it away and hope that it goes away.
So I asked somebody this recently. I was like, would you want to live forever? Would you?
I don't think so.
Because I was like, if you were going to live forever, there would never be, the drive wouldn't really be there. No,
because you're always going to be around.
You're always going to be around.
Right.
I mean, I guess you'd always be this, if you can live forever, I'm sure your body can move.
Right.
Right? So you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't have the perspective of getting older.
Right.
Right? Now, nobody wants to get old. I get that.
Yeah.
But there is a certain thing, a perspective of in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, think about somebody who's 90. Mm-hmm. The perspective on life they've had.
Oh, yeah.
Is totally different.
To what's important.
Right.
Like they
what
probably
makes you
laugh
happy.
at these kids now. Like this generation, they're like, really? You're not having your phone? Like, I went through the depression. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's what family is important. Your health is important. That type of thing.
And I think that's the beauty of growing older is that you get that perspective on life. Mm-hmm. Like that stuff that we thought was important in your 20s or 30s is not. Like TikTok's not that important.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like having meaningful conversations is important. Mm-hmm. I always, especially like first or second date. Like for me, it's really about having a moment with somebody that nobody else will have. Right? Usually when I say that gets me my first kiss anyway. But
but you can usually feel it though. Like you're like, that was a moment.
Well, because it's true.
I've had those moments, which is what drives me nuts because I'm always looking for my next moment with somebody.
I just think,
and I get let down, but it just means it's not the right person.
Yeah, I think that especially today, where I think men, especially the younger kids now, right, are just different. Like with technology, social media.
Oh yeah, I live in it every day. 7th grade.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're different.
Middle school.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm going to the days of where you would just go out, you'd play.
Yeah.
You'd fall off your bike with no helmet. You're good.
Right.
I was rollerblading down Situate Ave on rollerblades without a brake and a helmet. Like I had no pads.
Right.
I had to jump on.
Oh my God.
I had to jump off the sidewalk down the hill to stop myself. Yeah. Right on the grass.
These kids wouldn't even know what to do.
But that's what I'm saying. Like
they really wouldn't.
So it's just different.
It's funny.
So for you then, what's next for Erica?
Well, working on another book. Trying to just be happy, like I'm not alone or lonely, but I want that person. I'm hopeful that 2023, he'll come around. He'll find me and I'll find him.
Maybe he'll read your book and then reach out.
I know. It's weird how people have reached out that I didn't expect to read my book. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
And so before we go, so the book is like different people you've dated.
Yeah,
and
there's also a chapter, though, about not following society's rules.
Oh, tell me about that.
And me being a rule breaker, even though I'm not. But I really just felt like after a certain point in my life, I wasn't going to be married with kids by 30-something with, a house and a dog and this, that, and the other. And for me, I had to accept it that I was like, you know what? I'm not playing by the rules. I'm just going to do for me. And if that's the way my life is going to go, then that's the way it's going to go. And I had to accept that and just do what I wanted to do and not try to keep fitting into this mold that I had to, have a significant other. Then I had to get engaged. Then I had to get married, and kind of follow the steps. I'm like, if I want to live with somebody, I'm going to live with somebody. If I want to go get married at City Hall, we're going to do it. Or if I just want to be engaged for 10 years, I will.
And society's rules have less than a 50% chance of working.
Right. It's not working.
It's not working. And I think for me, it's kind of funny. I was having this conversation the other day. I'd either thought I'd be the first one to get married or the last. Obviously, I'm the last of my friends. But people, I was like, no, I'll probably have kids in my 40s. And they'd be like, you'll be old. I'll be like, yeah, but I'll be fit. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not all of a sudden going to stop working out.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, like, nothing about my life is normal anyway. Yeah. Just from being like an entrepreneur.
Well, right. People always say, you're never stopping. And I'm like, right, I'm not just a teacher. I work with a lot of people who are just teachers. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want more. Yeah.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, so for me, teaching is something that I do. I love being around kids. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I knew ever since I was a kid I wanted to be a teacher. But I always felt like there was more for me to do. So I want to keep having that drive to do it.
Right.
Because I don't want to just stop. I could have just stopped and been a teacher and been married at 21.
Right.
But I didn't.
Probably divorced.
And I say that all the time. I go, I probably would have been divorced.
Yeah.
The odds are it would have been high,
So next for you, another book. Mm-hmm. You started writing it.
Yeah, I have a chapter. It's more about like love and loss.
Okay.
It was really heavy, a lot of it. But again, it comes out high. The loss you go through, like heavy losses, and I talk about very personal like losses. Like I came out better. I'm okay, but it was a process. It was a whole transformation that I had to go through. Even at 43 with no kids, like that was something I had to accept. Right. There's other ways, like I can adopt and do whatever, but like a lot of women, we feel like, oh my God, I'm nothing without a kid.
So I didn't know there was such a big movement on women getting a sperm donor on their own.
Yeah.
So like
I tried it.
Yeah, so you would be like a single mother technically.
Yeah, single mother by choice. Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
There's a whole group of them.
I had no idea. I just heard about it for like the first time. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you should do it. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't give a
crap. But see, again, society, I'm like, do whatever you want.
That's how I feel.
You know what I mean?
Right?
Like who cares? If you're happy, you're happy.
Yeah, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Right.
Like, I don't do what you want.
Exactly. And that's kind of how my classroom goes. I'm like, whatever. You're not hitting somebody. You're not bleeding. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, sit on the floor.
Right.
Get your work done.
Yeah.
If you're getting your work done, I don't really care how you do.
Well, that's how life is.
Right.
Right.
So
let me see. If there's 2 life lessons that you learned that dictate your life, that you've learned and they're going to make you better, what were those 2 lessons that we'll end the podcast with?
One of them is to remember to be still. Like,
can you unpack that a little bit?
Like, be still in the moment when you're questioning something in your life, when you have a lot of confusion going around in your thoughts, you feel like your life is out of control. I have learned to just be still and listen.
The younger Erica.
Yeah.
Would have reacted.
Would have 100%. And just to, know that you're okay. Like, honestly, like one of my biggest lessons in my life is that no matter what the universe or life or anything gets thrown at me, I'm always going to come out fine. I'm always going to be okay. And anybody should know that. Like, you should know that no matter what, it's going to suck. It's just a moment, you know, and you're going to get over it.
So one of the, so I wrote the first Pug book. So I just finished the second Pug book, like the draft. And one of the things in there is Pug ends up breaking his leg, or his paw, I would say, but his leg.
Yeah.
And he has to go to physical therapy, right?
So
And
cute.
and so one of the things the physical therapist says to him, which is what my professor in physical therapy said, is that what you're going through right now is not forever.
It's temporary.
It's not forever.
Yeah.
Right? And it changes that perspective.
Yep.
Like, my leg won't always be broke.
Right.
Right? And I think if you have that mantra or like, hey, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Then everything will be okay. Because remember, you did the opposite before.
Yes.
You were waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Always.
So you manifested it dropping.
Always.
Right?
Yeah. And it always dropped.
And how much better has your life gotten now with that mantra?
Oh my God,
versus...
it's night and day.
Yeah, right?
It's night and day. And like you said, people are like, oh, you're so different. It's like, yeah, but I'm happy. Like, I feel good. It's not just a happy smile. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, when you feel good emotionally, spiritually, like, I feel intact.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, listen.
It's a huge difference.
Listen, I'll tell you. So if you feel intact, then your dude's around the corner. Right? Like, that's what happens. When you feel good,
yeah.
The universe brings you more things that make you feel good.
I think Abraham Hicks just had, somebody did one of his quotes. You attract it. Like, when you feel good and happy about everything, that's when you attract what you want. No. It's true, though. It's
I was in the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Sure. But that's definitely true.
It's so true. Because when I was in my 20s, 30s, dating and jobs and whatever, my life was in chaos. I was all over the place. And again,
you don't know who you are then either.
No,
right?
Definitely not. But when you're dating somebody and waiting for the other shoe to drop and not trusting them and this, that, and the other, it's going to happen. You're manifesting that to happen. And it does all the time.
Right.
99.9% of the time it's going to happen. And then when you finally realize and you have to be comfortable in your own skin and recognize how you react to things and, and learn more about yourself, that's when you're going to have what you need,
Exactly.
And that's where I'm at. I have what I need right now, but do I want more? We always do.
Yeah.
Having that partner and.
So Abraham Hicks says, be excited. It's paraphrasing. Be happy with what you have, but excited for more.
Right. And it's true.
Right. Be content.
Yeah.
But still be excited for what's coming.
Yep.
Versus not feeling whole, because then you just throw everything off.
Right.
Right. And I think I that's one of my challenges. Like, I didn't do enough.
Yeah.
Do a podcast. Write a book.
No, same. I'm like, what can I do next?
I think it's the ADD. So, okay. So tell people the name of the book, where they can get it.
Yep. So the book, In the End, You're Going to Be Okay. I also did a journal, a daily gratitude journal.
I did see that.
They're both on Amazon. I will also, believe it or not, be at the Crowne Plaza this Saturday with a bunch of other local authors. So I'll have a table there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Well, good luck with that. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. So much fun.
Hello, my name is Dr. Marc Bochner. Don't forget to check out my new book, Pug Learns to Believe. Hey guys, Dr. Marc here. Now I know a lot of you want to know how we get all these amazing results with our clients, and it comes down to 3 things. The first is fun fitness classes that burn a lot of calories. 2 is giving you an accountability coach to make sure you stay on track and get the best results. And 3 is the nutrition. Included in the nutrition is our food supplement. So we pair with Prestige Labs because I feel they are the best, they have integrity, and they get great results. These are actually the supplements that I take as well. Here's the awesome part. By clicking the link below, you can save 40% off the retail price. So you need that link to actually save 40%. If you just go to the normal site without my link, you're paying full price. Okay? So these are the supplements my clients use. If you are interested, definitely click the link below and it'll tell you all about them.